Weekend before San Diego Comicon, and there was Edward Olmos and James Callis and a whole bunch of people from the show. So they all say hello. We were all running around trying to avoid the, what is it, the little ziti? How do you pronounce that mosquito? That's Zika, the Zika mosquito. And actually a couple people actually got infected by it. And I just heard on the news that they're having an outbreak, so they're really trying to take care of that. I was involved, as you know, there's actually working on a brand new Battlestar Galactica movie. They hired the producers from Social Network, from a whole bunch of wonderful movies, and they have a director from the last 3 Hunger Games that wants to direct it, and the woman that is doing Westworld, that's writing the series Westworld, is also apparently writing the script. But the problem is, on developing a new series for a studio, they take forever trying to, number one, get a script everybody agrees to. And I think the trouble is that you have a lot of people that love the original, a lot of people that love the new show, and they've got to progress it, you know, for a new audience, being a movie. So the question is, it'll probably be a little bit of the old and new, and then the problem is, what kind of story are they going to follow that everybody's going to be able to connect to, right? And because after the original series, 1980, Caprica, Blood and Chrome, all these different variations of Battlestar, what are they going to do that's going to be new and different without covering the same territory, the same, right, the same stuff that the original did? So, but I do think, I mean, for me, I would do it 30 years down the line. And I think what we did in the books was the best way to go, which was have some of the original characters, have it 30 years later, a new generation born in space, and where are they now? And they're still searching for Earth, and they're following the path of the 13th tribe, and they keep finding remnants of the 13th tribe. And like so many journeys, you go on and off course, and then you keep having all these adventures on the way, right? So you can tell endless stories that way. I don't know how, anybody read my books at all? My Battlestar books? Well, I've done six Battlestar Galactica novels, and those novels take the show 30 years into the future, and it shows where they are in space, what the challenges are, and they're trying to, again, to find their way. And the Cylons, because, I don't know, when you're 5 years old, the original Cylons would have scared you. And maybe most of you were 5 years old when the original Battlestar Galactica came out. But those little guys were like this. They're like, you know, and all you'd have to do is go, or you'd have to go like this, like this. So, you know, I kind of liken it a little bit. I don't know if you're Star Trek lovers. I happen to love Star Trek, but the Borg are one of the scariest things, except for me, they're totally benign. Because again, they move like this, and I'm thinking, you want to be assimilated, and so they're assimilating the full knowledge of every single human being that they assimilate, and then the Borgs are like this, you know, and I'm thinking, you're bringing all that wealth of knowledge, experience, background from different cultures, and you look like this? You know, so I always thought, and then they move so kind of, and they miss things, they don't see what's there. I thought anybody could outsmart the Borg, you know. And then they had that really sexy, dynamic Borg woman, right? The one that kind of had the whole thing, and I thought, well, so why did she get to have the benefit of all that smarts, and everybody else looks like an idiot? You know, so I always try to figure that out. But anyway, what I like about the new Cylons is, at least they gave them a, what's the word? Kind of a culture. And every one of those Cylons, even though they were connected, they were all independent thinking. And you also had the technological Cylons, which were far more terrifying than the ones we had. Although I think if you watch one of the, not Blood and Chrome, one of the episodes had a new version of the Cylon, which was a buffed up version of the old version. Those were badass. Those looked like they could kick butt, you know, and I thought, why didn't they go with those guys? Those were such better Cylons. Anyway, they are developing a movie. They want to relaunch the franchise. I think what happened was they saw the success of Star Wars and bringing back the original actors, and they saw, well, you know, Universal just had probably one of their most successful years ever with movies, making a phenomenal amount of movies, although I must say, this has been one of the worst movie summers for me. I haven't liked one movie yet that I've seen. What did I just see? I did not like the Star Trek movie, I'm sorry. I'm a huge Star Trek. There's no story. It could have been a bad Star Trek episode. And it's just a bunch of action and you don't even get, I love the characters. They had hardly any character interaction, right? It was just a bunch of shooting and running around with no story, no interesting story, and I thought, what? You know, you can do a combination of action and story and have the story actually about something that has some weight and, you know, that's levity. You're going to tell me that you've got how many millions of dollars, $100 million, $150 million? And you go, okay, we got to put our wisest, smartest minds together. Let's bring the most talented people together and come up with a great story. And that's it? That's the one they come up with, right? So listen, I love great movies, but I get so pissed off and disappointed when I see a movie that really lets me down. And I love Star Trek, and I love the characters. See, even when it's a bad Star Trek movie, these new characters have really recreated the chemistry, I think, of the originals and even extended it because they took some of the minor characters and made them more major characters and fully developed them. And the chemistry is delicious. Well, this one, they had hardly any character interaction. So much of the humor and so much of the wonderful, you know, chemistry they had was lost. And the woman, they don't give her anything to do. Nothing to do with this one. So I had a lot of problems with it. Although Nina's kids loved it, right? You loved it. Anyway, all I can tell you is about Battlestar. I'm gonna, first of all, I always tell people that if you have the courage to ask it, I will answer it. I don't care what the question is. It can be about any actor. I know all the dirt, so I will share anything about anyone. I don't care. They can come after me. They'll have to find me first and track me down, and I'm pretty elusive. So anybody like to share about either the original or the new Battlestar Galactica? Can you,
There's a segment called, on YouTube called Gary the Cylon, and they're hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but I welcome you to come check those out. It's something somebody has made, and they've made like about a dozen of these things, and they're hilarious. But I just wondered if you thought, you know, in the show, did you guys ever get to really expand on your like comedic sense and your sense of humor? I mean, there were moments, but I know that.
You know, you're talking about the original show now? You know, they're always playing with ideas with characters, okay? Trying to figure out how best to use an actor, what to do, what not to do. So apparently, I don't know if you know the episode, the one where I go down on a planet and people see me as somebody else, even though I look like myself. Which episode was that? Not the white uniform. It actually was a forerunner because Donald Belisario, who did Quantum Leap, anybody watch Quantum Leap? Well, remember Quantum Leap? He would jump and then he would look like the person that he jumped into, but to himself, he looks like him. So I actually did that, and Donald Belisario wrote it, and it was actually a forerunner of the pilot that they actually shot. So in the second season, they were actually going to reverse and make Starbuck the more responsible guy. and make me totally not give a crap about everything. I was really pissed off. I thought, what are they doing? Where did they get that? And they were going to kill off some of the major characters, and I thought, you know, the problem with the original Battlestar wasn't the fact that we didn't have great chemistry and the characters were playing the right characters. The problem is that, number one, we were on ABC, where they had 7 out of top 10 shows, and our show was the most expensive show in TV history, and they couldn't justify leaving a show on that wasn't in the top 10. But how many shows? We were the highest rated sci-fi show of all time on network television. Seriously, we had, get this, 65 million people following that show. What? Yes, it was. And by the way, they even replaced us when they took us off the air and put Mork and Mindy, right? I was in love with Mindy, so don't laugh. I love Mindy. She could care less about me. But the show didn't the show didn't hit the ratings that we did. So that's when they wanted to bring back Battlestar. And of course, when they brought it back, they destroyed it because they brought it to Earth, cut the budget in half. I didn't want to do it. Nobody wanted to do it. The only decent episode was the one with Dirk on the, you know, planet with the Cylons. You know, his favorite socialator. Yes. Do you remember the socialators on the show? Why did they get rid of the socialators? We need more socialators in this world. Okay. Anyway, another question. Yes. Oh, you have a great voice. Stand up so everybody can hear you.
Well, I met you the other day on Friends.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't recognize you with the hat.
So I got the Uber Starbucks at the end a couple of years ago, and I asked him, so who came up with the crazy idea for your triad costume? Oh my God. And do you miss them?
Well, as you know, Dirk goes both ways because he's a girl in the new show and a guy in the new show. So Starbucks kind of confused, okay? And so he kind of said, we should really try, I just love those triad outfits. Can we wear them? And I said, come on, Dirk, do you really want to wear that? Yes, I love those outfits. So he went to the producers and the directors and he talked them into putting us in those little G-strings. And I had absolutely, actually, I don't know who came up with that idea, but seriously, a lot of people had a lot of fun at our expense, okay? That's all I want to say. Yes, another question, guys. An intelligent question this time, please. No? Just kidding, yes. Oh wait, you didn't talk. Can you yell that so everybody can hear it? The original series. Do I have a favorite episode? Yes. I love the first movie. And then I like the final episode. It was one of my favorite ones. The Hand of God, because we got to see the connection between Earth. And it said Eagle Landing. Remember the transmission that came through on the transmission? I also liked... what was a good one? Oh, I like the Kane episodes. Now, I don't know about you. How many people would have liked to have seen, and why have they not done a series around the Pegasus and Commander Kane and that whole ship? That would be bridging new territory. You can actually go back and recreate the beginning and go through the eyes of Kane and that crew, and you can still have Battlestar come into that, but that would be like a whole other perspective, right? And then of course, you could help reimagine a little bit, because in this day and age, I don't know about you, but when you watch Star Wars, have you ever noticed that the prequels look more sophisticated than the original? And it's actually supposed to happen before those, and yet the technology and everything looks so much more cool. I know. The what? Exactly. I know. And I didn't quite make that connection either, because the alien looks so different, Anyway, another question, guys. Yes?
So, what was it like, what did it feel like passing the torch with Paul's character from you to Mr. Jimmy Bamber?
So did you have a particular liking for Jamie Bamber? Before you knew he spoke English with an English accent? Because I know, because people were surprised, you know, that he was English actually. I thought it was really sad because the English accent is, why is it that Americans speak English accents so badly and English people speak American accents so easily? Have you ever noticed that? First of all, I thought Jamie did a great job. And by the way, I was really frustrated as Apollo. I was, because after the first couple of episodes, I just didn't feel I got much interesting subject matter to work with. And back in those days, they tended to write characters a little bit more black and white. And for me, I told Jamie this. There's always a problem writing Starbuck. I mean, not Starbuck, but Apollo. Because he's such a good guy, you know, and good guys, for most people, is boring. So how do you make the good guy more interesting? And I told Jamie, I said, the way you make the good guy more interesting is you gotta screw him up. You gotta throw him into the abyss. You gotta frack him up in every which way possible. And then he has to struggle against whatever happens to him, right? And that brings out the edge. So I always found that when Jamie and I were in the scene, there was a certain underlying, not spoken about competitiveness, because I'm the better Apollo. No, I'm the better Apollo. I can do this better than you. No, you can't. Yes, I can. And so there's that kind of thing. So that would raise the game and make both of us take our performances to another level. So, and I always found that with Jamie, if you really pushed him, really, you know, put him into a really strong circumstance, that would always bring out his best performance. But I always told him, I said, Jamie, I said, you know, you certainly get a lot better material than I got. You get a lot more women than I got. Although I did have Jane Seymour. That's pretty amazing. But I said, still, they don't quite know how to write for you. You know, it's funny with the other characters that are more, you know, messed up. Writers love to write for messed up characters because there's more drama. The question is, when you have somebody that's such a good guy, straightforward, you know, save the day, traditional hero, the writers don't find that interesting. Just like most of you women never go for the good guy in school. It's always the badass little screwed up guy, right? Maybe it wasn't you. Were you smart enough? Okay. Anyway. Yes.
So how did you, extending upon that, and then also the bad guys, Tom Zarek?
Yeah.
How did that feel being on the other side and in the same series?
Right.
How was that?
First of all, I don't know how many of you watched again. Some of you just came in, but how many of you again watched the new Battlestar Galactica? Raise your hands. Yes. Okay. So how many of you, when you looked at Tom Zarek, thought, "Oh, he plays such a good bad guy"? Because I had got that over and over again. Such a good bad guy, right? And I tell people, well, that's good because I was playing a good guy. You know, the problem with life is that everybody sees the other guy as the bad guy, right? And they always say history is written by the winner, right? Do you know how many good guys fought tyranny and suppressive governments and were written up in history, like Braveheart as the bad guy, right? And the unfortunate part about history is that leaders don't like to be challenged, and leaders tended to think that they knew what was best for everybody, right? Ever met anybody like that? And democracy is a very rare, fragile institution that demands you building consensus, that you have to talk everybody to come together, compromise, find the center path, right? But most people think, I know what's right. And I'm gonna make you do the right thing, okay? Kids will tell you they get a lot of that when they're growing up. The point I'm making is that I'm sitting there, I was a terrorist, right? Why? Because I love being a terrorist and blowing up things? No, I was in a suppressive government where people were killed, thrown into prison, where there was no democracy. So I'm the bad guy? And then I served 25 years for standing up against a very suppressive government. And then I come out and I have the Battlestar Galactica government that now says we know what's right for everybody, and if you don't agree with us, you go to jail. Either our way or the highway. So now I'm thinking, who's the good guy and the bad guy here? And my only thought about this, because I have to be honest with you, I've never played a character I connected to so deeply as I did Tom Zarek. And I've never played a character that pissed me off what happened to him, because honestly, and every turn of the way, that guy got maligned. And most of the dispersions were cast upon him by Adama and Rosalind, right? But the truth was, if you really listen to what he said, and by the way, the writers were always told to put the truth in Zarek's mouth. That means whether you wanted to hear it or not, he was actually telling the truth. And the reason he told the truth was because he had nothing to lose. He lost all his friends. He stood up against tyranny. He spent 25 years in prison for what he believed in, right? And then he gets into Battlestar Galactica and he gets pushed aside in every which way. He never sought to be president, except, guess what they did? They rigged the election, right? Who's the bad guy here? And then every turn that he wanted to accomplish something, they would negate him. They even made him vice president so they could negate and keep him in a benign position, right? And Rosalind never listened to anybody. And they never listened to the quorum. And imagine if the president said, I don't trust the Congress, I don't trust the Senate, although in this day and age, I'm sure many of you do not trust the government or the Congress or the Senate for good reason. But the point I'm making is democracy does demand that everybody come together and build a consensus. And I wish we did what Australia does. Do you know that if the Congress can't work together and pass bills and come to agreement, even if it means compromise, they fire everybody and they hold new elections? That means you can't have a stonewalling Congress. You can't have one side or the other side demanding my way or the highway. They have to work together. Does that make sense to you? Makes sense to me, because you know, whoever represents has to represent all of us. So as Tom Zarek, so many things happen in that show that so pissed me off as Tom Zarek and as Richard Hatch, right? So I hate to say it, but we actors get emotionally connected to our characters, and what happens to our characters affects us personally. Now when it came to the, and I know everybody goes, yeah, but you killed the quorum. You went and killed all those people. You're such a bad, bad, bad boy. And I go, first of all, the quorum was my best friends. Those are the people that supported me. Why would I kill the people I love? Only one reason. A coup. And by the way, I know most of you probably forgot this. Gaeta, is Gaeta a good guy? No? Why? Because because of what happened at the end? Anyway, Gaeta came to me and said, I do not agree with what Adama wants to do with allowing the Cylons to have access to our technology, right? Now, I don't know about you, but would you want to allow people that killed millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people who don't even know their own programming until the programming kicks in, allow access to your technology? So the vast majority of the fleet agreed with Zarek and Gaeta. The only reason that they actually were able to overcome them was because there was loyalty for Adama. Even though they disagreed with Adama, there was loyalty for Adama. And the other part is that Gaeta didn't know what a coup was. A coup is the most extreme recourse if you can't have democracy and you have a dictatorial government, which is what you had. They were saying our way or the highway. There's no compromise here. So guess what? We had no other recourse but a coup. And if you believe that if the Cylons come on board, you're going to have people killed, thrown in the brig, and controlled, and you're fighting for your survival, we were as right, maybe even more right than the other side was. So the question was, whatever side you took, nobody wanted to be king, and nobody had an ego. It was about trying to save the fleet, right? And I don't know if you forgot, but Walter put his hand in the cookie jar, metaphorically speaking, and was like, oh, am I eating too many cookies? You know, am I stealing a cookie? Which metaphorically translates to, oh, did I kill millions of people? Right? Right. He always had that innocence about him. And I don't know about you, but he was forgiven at the trials and vindicated, right? So my thought was, so here we are trying to somehow save the fleet, and I go into the quorum, and this is a real important thing because originally in the script, it had the quorum disagreeing with me. Agreeing with me. They were on my side. And it had me killing them. And I said, why would I kill my best friends if they're agreeing with me? In a coup, this is a real important thing to get. If you believe the coup is going to save millions of lives, if you believe it's going to save the fleet, then the question is, you have to take out anybody who is against you. So people will die in order to save people. Now, leaders, military leaders make decisions like that all the time. So here we are having to do a coup, and they agree with me, and they had me killing the quorum. I went to Ron Moore and I said, I can't do that. I would never kill the quorum if they agree with me. So he changed it to them not agreeing with me. And then the biggest problem for me was they didn't do an extra shot to kind of show how hard that was for him.
Yeah.
So it always looked like it was no big deal. And it really, for me, personally, it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever shot because even though it's acting, you know, we actors, great actors do not do a lot of acting. They learn how to use their imagination to translate a circumstance into something that can affect you personally on a real level so that you feel real emotions. So sitting there going to kill the quorum, my best friends, was the hardest thing I ever did. And I wish they had shot a scene that would help illuminate the fact that the one thing I loved about Tom Zarin, because he had lost so many friends, so many people, had paid the highest price, he had come to a place where he was willing to make the hardest decisions to serve the common good. And even though from the outside you would look at it as horrible, but see, if you look at it from the inside and realize that in leadership, people kill people all the time in governments in order to save people. So both here in Battlestar Galactica, remember one thing. They really crossed over from that black and white, the good guy and the bad guy, and realizing that most people want to do the right thing. Most people want to do a good thing. Unfortunately, people don't trust doing the so-called right thing, and they do a lot of wrong things in order to accomplish a right thing. So a lot of times they cross over the line, they break rules, they violate boundaries, and they do things in service to something good. But everybody thinks of the world and the equation differently, right? I'm sure the extremist Muslims think of us as the bad guy. We're not the good guy, we're the heathens. We're immoral, we're all this. And we look at them, and we've seen this fight all through history, right? And not that everybody believes that same way. I'm sure there's Christians and there's Muslims that don't feel that way at all, but we're talking about the extreme elements. So, again, part of that equation, part of that metaphor has been translated into Battlestar Galactica between the monotheist and the polytheist of the Cylons and the humans. And if you watched a little of Caprica, you will know that the Cylons were programmed by the humans. They became polytheists because most of society was polytheist. And then you had the rebels, the monotheists, who believed in one God. So Ron Moore had a very artful, very creative way of shifting everything around so that in the show, the people you were actually judging and the people whose side you were on against the other guy, in truth, you were looking at yourself and judging yourself. Does that make sense? And that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. So again, you know, it was not easy to matriculate through that show. It was very complex. The characters were very deep. Nothing was cheesy or superficial. And every character was struggling with their dark side. And the metaphor for me, because I teach all over the country. I go to colleges, universities, I do workshops, seminars, I even do online coaching. Plus, I still am doing as much acting as I've always done. I just filmed a new pilot called Personal Space with Nikki Klein from the new show and Tamo, you know, from the new show. And it's all about a ship on a 1,200-year journey to find another star system. And they put rotating crews. They go into cryo. Every 25 years, the crews shift. Each crew will get one 25-year segment, and then they'll be in cryo. And the cryo that we do in the show is based on the real methodology that they're doing right now to put 200 people in cryo. There's 200 people right now in cryo because they had life-threatening diseases. They put them in cryo, and there's a whole way that they put them into a certain temperature. They have to pump out the blood. They have to put in, I forget, liquid something. It is a very painful process. So on the show Personal Space, once in a while they have to wake up people because there's a problem that has to be solved. And waking up is a painful process, and going back to sleep is a painful process. In any case, I am the outgoing commander. My crew is asleep. I refuse to go to sleep because I do not trust the new crew. And so it's kind of an interesting drama of me really trying to educate and trying to deal with this new crew that seems a little cavalier, a little out of the box, a little, you know, dangerous for me. So we filmed about 2/3 of it. We have about 3 or 4 more days of filming some of the exteriors and being on the outside of the ship. So that's one thing, and I'm doing a new movie with Leah Carnes from the new series, who played, did she play Kat? What did Leah Carnes play? Was it Kat? And then I'm Gigi Edgley from Farscape. And then John Dykstra. Anybody know who John Dykstra is? He's the CGI computer effects guy for both the original Star Wars, the original Battlestar, for all the Spider-Man movies, for so many things. Anyway, his daughter, Chloe Dykstra, is starring opposite me, and it's a really powerful story about an AI in 2061, and I'm filming that starting next month. So I'm still involved in a lot of things, but teaching and helping people has been a passion of mine, and that's why I go to colleges, universities, I do online seminars, because I see too many people living lives of quiet desperation. People, whether it's the relationships they choose, or the jobs they choose, or the work that they choose, most people, in a sense, especially today, are all kind of going through a very traumatic, right, journey, roller coaster ride. Why? And this is a real important thing to understand, is that we live in a very changing world. You once could come out of college with skill sets and work for the next 40 years. Now, like the downloads on your phone, you ever notice how many shifts go on your phone? Technology is changing so rapidly that by the time you come out of college, your skills will be antiquated. In a sense, you can't even look 5 years ahead, you gotta look 15 and 20 years ahead, so you're prepared for where the jobs are gonna go. See, there's a lot of jobs available, but most people don't have the skill sets to get those jobs. So, in a sense, we're all gonna have to go back to school. We're all gonna have to up-level our skill sets and continue that process. Anyway, technology is a wonderful thing, and I think love science fiction because it's always challenging us to look at the world, right? Through, if you want to call it, a more realistic portal, so that we can see how things are moving, changing, evolving. And that's why I like Personal Space. And then I'm filming another thing called Blade of Honor, which is a, I don't know, how many people watch fan films? Anybody watch fan films? Some of the Star Trek fan films? Anybody? New Voyages, anybody? How many people know about the Exonar stuff going on? Exonar is a new groundbreaking Trek indie film on the level of a studio film. It's got some of the most wonderful actors in it. They've raised almost $2 million through Kickstarter campaigns. I get to play the Klingon General Karn, which is probably one of my, I hate putting prosthetics on because it is painful, uncomfortable. I spent 2 days in makeup tests with the Deep Space Nine makeup crew, and then I spent 4 hours in makeup getting ready to play the role. But the character is so amazing for me. Looking into the Klingon history, their mindset, not just the crazy Klingons we know, but no race could be that crazy and come up with that level of technology and sophistication. So look, we have crazy people all around us, and I thank God, by the way, for the crazy people, because life would be boring without a few crazy people. Although I'm sure some of you wish some of the crazy people in your own life would be fracked out the airlock. But nevertheless, if you haven't seen it and you like Star Trek, go on to YouTube, put in XNR, AXANAR, and watch the 20-minute trailer. It's really amazing. And that's how they raised all that money. But Paramount, CBS, got a little pissed off. Was not very happy with looking at XNR. And so they did a lawsuit. So the lawsuit has kind of initiated fan film parameters that says you can't do a show longer than 15 minutes. You can't have professional actors in it. You can't use any actors in Star Trek. And you can only raise $50,000, and so it's going to close down all the fan films. So XNR has a law firm, a really big one, that's really got an agenda with Paramount, and they took on the case pro bono, and so they're going to take them all the way to court because I think they're asking for some things that they really don't have a right to ask for, and so they've done a lot of overreaching. But I was even going to a Star Trek convention in Europe, England, and they closed it down because they were using Star Trek stuff, and I thought they were even closing down conventions because it's not licensed, I thought, and we all know that Star Trek fans are the ones that really created a movement that ultimately got Paramount to actually try bringing back Star Trek and putting it in syndication, right? Anyway, there's a lot of things happening, and I'm really hoping on Battlestar because I think Battlestar has so many more stories to tell, but I just hope that somebody that gets hold of it understands the underlying core heart and soul of what Battlestar is all about and brings it back on the big screen, because I produced the 25th Battlestar anniversary convention up at Universal City Walk, and we played it on the IMAX up there. And it looked absolutely amazing. The question is, what are they going to do with it? And what kind of story are they going to develop? And will they make sure that they keep all the things that we love, right, about Battlestar in that story? So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Anyway, another question, guys? Anybody? Yes.
Looking at those Abrams films you were just mentioning earlier, has anyone ever come up with the thought of the fact that the new Battlestar Galactica was a parallel dimension type thing, and this other, the ones from our time, is still going strong, and this other one, the newer one, is just a different reality.
I will only say this. Back in 1978, networks and studios were terrified of science fiction. They were terrified of Starbucks cigar. Honestly, they had a problem with everything. They were afraid to alienate any audience. And they didn't really particularly like sci-fi at all. So a 7-hour miniseries, as a result of the success of Star Wars even back then, initiated the fact that, we'll do something similar, but it was a totally different story, so it was inspired by the success of Star Wars, but it was a totally different story, so it was not a similar rendition, even though Paramount, even back then, initiated a lawsuit trying to close down Battlestar because we had the audacity to have a laser pistol. And so they even had to give in and decide that they weren't going to shoot lasers. What they would do is, and I hope you notice this, you would have a light go on the laser, and then you wouldn't see a laser, and then you would see an explosion, right? At the end. They had to do that because of the lawsuit. So, you know, I always say that, you know, nobody owns space, okay? And I love Star Wars, and I love what George Lucas did, but Star Wars, I mean, Lucas doesn't own space either. You know, and today we see lasers and all kinds of stuff, right? So somehow that got worked out. But nevertheless, the problems were is that the network was really against it, and unfortunately, they never really supported Battlestar, even though it had this very huge, diverse audience of all ages. People that never watched sci-fi before love Battlestar Galactica. And that show, for me, how many first-year shows do you remember? Most first-year shows come and go and disappear. So Battlestar, I've never seen a first-year, one-year show in history have the impact of Battlestar. And first-year shows are usually a train wreck because all the producers, the network executives, everybody knows what you should be doing. And you get endless notes, like no cigar for Starbucks, no this, no that, don't do this, don't do that. They're so afraid of alienating somebody, and you have so many cooks in the kitchen, that usually if you're lucky enough to survive the gauntlet course of the first year and get to the second year, then the producers can finally do what they wanted to do in the first year, right? And then that's usually when you start to see the show really grow. And by the way, when Next Generation came, I don't know if you noticed, but the first year wasn't all that good, okay? And had they been on network, they would have been canceled in 5 minutes. They were fortunately in syndication at a time when syndication didn't have enough product, so they had nothing to replace it with, so they left it on. It took almost into the third year for Star Trek to find its audience. Now, in this day and age, we've got 4 billion more channels, more programming. It takes longer to find something. It really does. Networks are very impatient. If things aren't successful right away, especially if they spend a lot of money, they take it off. That's why I keep hoping that there's going to be a new, either the Sci-Fi Channel has to wake up and become about sci-fi. I really think that's why they changed it to Insipid, or Sippy, what was it? Sci-Fi Channel to Sippy, like something away from sci-fi. But I think there's a new mandate over the Sci-Fi Channel to actually create some quality sci-fi, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But I'm hoping that there's actually a home for really quality sci-fi. And I've always told people this. I said, I don't know how many Firefly fans, any Firefly fans here? It always blows me away. 12 episodes. And they're so excited. Oh, really? Okay. So only 10 of those episodes were shown on TV. So the point is, would you not think a Firefly fan would pay $5, let's just say $10 a month, right? To see Firefly, would you? So back over at Fox, when they tried to do the series, and by the way, they were going to do Battlestar at Fox. Bryan Singer and Tom DeSanto had taken their idea to do a continuation of Battlestar, not a reimagining, a continuation, over to Sci-Fi, and they had, not the Sci-Fi Channel, but the Universal, and then they went over to Fox and made a network deal for a full season, and then Bryan Singer had to jump ship to go back on X-Men 2, which he was directing, and when they did, they dropped the network deal for Battlestar, and they replaced it with Firefly. And so Firefly then came out, and by the way, it only had 5 million fans. So, but 5 million of the most dedicated fans in the universe. Now, I think 5 million dedicated Firefly fans would pay $10 a month to watch Firefly episodes, would you not? So how much is 5 million people times $10? How much? $50 million a month. How many dollars does it take to produce one Firefly episode that day? 3 million, 2 million? Okay. What that means is fans could have supported a Firefly show into perpetuity. That had it been under a different network business model. But because the networks have so much bureaucracy, so much overhead, they need a show to reach 10 million, 9 million, 15 million, 20 million for them to justify leaving it on. But if you shot it under a different business model, you could make a huge profit and have it on forever. And then it wouldn't be taken off the air because of some executive. It would be taken off the air because you, the fans, no longer support it, right? I always thought the decision should be in the hands of the fans anyway. I don't know about you. Anybody agree with me? How many of your favorite shows get taken off for all the wrong reasons? And how many shows that you could care less about stay on forever? Yes. Okay. So another question. Anybody have another question for me? Yes.
The original series, whatever happened to the life-size Vipers that you and Star Wars were?
They're in my bedroom. Yeah. I climb in them every night around 3 o'clock when I can't sleep, and I just kind of go fire at Cylons and kind of get all the stress and tension out, and then I go back to sleep. See, you're laughing. What if it's true? It could be true. All right, I actually built a Viper, at least part of a Viper, for my own Second Coming trailer that I put together. I don't know how many of you saw my Second Coming trailer. How many of you saw that? If you haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube. I believe it's still on YouTube. And we put that together in 2000 to help inspire a revival. It started out as a little animated storyboard, and then slowly but surely the little boy in me got big eyes and kept thinking if we just shot a cut scene, a live action scene, that'd be cool. Of course, I had no idea how much this would all end up costing me. And so my little credit cards just kept going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And I had so much fun. It was such a cool thing. We had a 100-man crew filming this in a warehouse where they used to house the Spruce Goose. Yeah, and we were filming there, and we had people flying in, traveling in, driving in with their costumes and hardware, because we had no costume budget. But we did have Volker Engel, who won the Academy Award for ID4, special effects supervisor, come help us. Had Dean Cundy, the DP for Jurassic Park and Apollo 13, brought his camera and filmed for us for a day with a cold hamburger. So we did get a lot of help, but it took about 18 months, and people thought we were crazy, and nobody made trailers back then. Believe it or not, we see people doing all kinds of trailers today for everything, to sell an idea, a concept, a book. Doesn't matter what it is. Back then, nobody made trailers. So when we made the trailer, everybody thought I was crazy, thought it's impossible, it will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and nobody thought we could do what we did. Today, we've broken the ceiling, shattered the glass ceiling. You can do phenomenal things, and if you look at Exonar, they're doing things that would cost studios tens of millions of dollars to do, because you have a lot of gifted, talented people who are willing to put the time in and not charge an arm and a leg. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people are putting together their indie sci-fi projects, and they're doing Kickstarter campaigns and raising money to, like, Personal Space. They did a Kickstarter. Blade of Honor did a Kickstarter. And by the way, I did do an episode, because my friend was directing it, of New Voyages. I get to play a really despicable character, which I'm sure you'll find quite shocking. Hopefully they'll be able to play it because of this whole new thing, lawsuit with Paramount. I hope they allow that episode to be completed and to be brought out. And I'm hoping Mark is a wonderful director, audio guy, editor. He can do it all. So I'm hoping that he gets it together. What?
You can see all of these on your YouTube channel.
What can you see?
All these trailers you're talking about, Personal Space,
They're on your
Blade
YouTube
Runner.
Oh, it's called Your YouTube or My YouTube?
Your YouTube channel.
Okay, oh good. If you want to see some of the trailers for this, Personal Space and all the different things, go over to...
Richard Hatch Actor. YouTube channel for Richard.
Yeah, my own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, my acting class, which I'm doing, just so you see, where did it go?
Here they are.
Oh, you have it? Yeah. As you know, I teach all over the country, and I do actually personal coaching. I do coaching. I coach for teachers, for people that get up in front of a room and speak and lecture. I work with entrepreneurs. I also work with actors and filmmakers. It's something that I actually love doing. We do Skype coaching, and I also do group coaching online as well. But my class in LA is called the Richard Hatch Actors Lab, and we call it more than an acting class because we really develop all original material. I encourage everybody to learn how to write and get into filmmaking, developing their own shorts, their own pilots, and learning how to put it all together so they're not waiting for somebody else. This is a big one for today, by the way. Everybody waits for somebody else, and we don't trust ourselves, and we're just afraid we can't do it, right? And we're always waiting for somebody to discover us. The art, I hate to say this, I call it the art, the business of the art. We all have to learn the business of the art. Because too many filmmakers, too many wonderful, talented, gifted artists are usually struggling to pay the bills because they don't know the business of the art and schools don't teach it. But I wish in school that I had learned the business of life so I could learn how to leverage my gifts and talents into the marketplace so that I could be able to generate the revenue I need in order to bring all my other dreams, right, to fruition. So believe it or not, I teach all of those things for people both in the private sector, the public sector, and also people in the entertainment industry. So anybody wants one of these, let me know afterwards and I'll pass it out to you, okay? So I don't know how many more minutes I have, but let me take another question, yes. Yes, I work with writing with everybody. When it comes to helping people take their story to a more powerful level. See, the trouble with most of us, we've seen so many movies, read so many books, that with not knowing it, we unconsciously mimic what we love. So we tend to write similar stories, right? Rather than coming up with an original concept. And it's hard to come up with an original concept when there's been so many stories about everything, right? But you can come up with an original approach to a story to show a new insight into a particular area of life. And that's what artists have to do, and that's what I do. I help challenge people to go deeper, to connect to their talent in a more powerful way, whether you're a writer, teacher, lecturer. I work with public speakers too, to get up in front of a room. How many people are terrified of getting up in front of a room of people? Anybody? Yeah, raise your hands, okay. They say the fear of death is number 3, the fear of public speaking is number 1. It's true. Yeah. So, you have a question? Sure.
I don't remember the name. I think it was War of the Gods. It was a two-part episode with the villain in the original series, Count Ridley. Just want to know what it is that you and Starbuck saw in that ship that you wouldn't let Shiva see. And there was never anything else written about it.
Everybody hear that question?
So we really want to know.
All right, I'm going to disclose one of the most powerful secrets of Battlestar Galactica. I want everybody to shut your eyes for a moment and take a moment of repause and think about your life, because your life will never be the same after I disclose this secret. So, are you ready? Okay. Everybody, stop thinking about what happened yesterday, where you're going to go after this panel. Be fully present. Okay? Right here, right now. Here we go. Here it comes. There was a lunch table with, I think somebody had a sandwich and a donut and a thing in there that was sitting in there. It's really true. Well, think of it this way. Since you couldn't see it, everybody imagines their own idea, right? Part of the whole art form of entertainment industry is the more you fill in the blanks, the less people use their imagination, right? So everybody, if I told you what it was, it would never live up to what you hope it would be. The imagination is a far more powerful tool. As you know, how often do you read a book? And your imagination creates this amazing world. And then you go see the movie and you're so disappointed because the movie's not even close to what you envisioned for the story, right? It wasn't a lunch pail, by the way. It was supposed to be a cloven hoof, I think. You know, depicting that this was the devil or associated with the devil, that kind of a thing. Yeah. Hope that satisfies you. Yeah. Okay. Don't hurt me afterwards, okay? All right. Another question, guys? Yes.
What do you think of the fact that we're
Like what? Well, we don't actually call it fracking, but you're right. I mean, was that a word that got evolved recently? I mean, was that word around for a long time? I don't know. We're talking about the word fracking, you know, which obviously is pumping stuff into the ground and helping to loosen and push the oil up to the surface. What? No, but I gotta be honest with you, okay? This really cracks me up. Nobody wants to hear somebody saying the F word, right? Right? You know, your kids, you say this, all that stuff. And when frack came out, all of a sudden, their kids are running around going, frack you! Frack this! Frack it! And they're going, oh, how cute. And I go, you know what they're saying, right? You know what frack means, right? It always cracked me up that people were more concerned with the word than the meaning of the word. And the truth is, see, when you use the F word sometimes, the effing word, you can say effing amazing. So it's used in a positive way. And I have tried every word possible, but nothing replaces the effing word. Oh, that's effing incredible. You are effing amazing. You know, because it just has such a bite to it. Frack doesn't ever quite do it, you know? What? Oh my God, fracking came out in 1990, by the way. I'm only talking about the oil thing. So I wonder if somebody came up with that. I kept thinking when I saw the Starbucks come out, I said, gee, I wonder if they got Starbucks from, but you know, Starbucks was around, by the way, as you know, in a play, right? You know, long before they used it that way. So I wonder if that name, if they could trademark a name, if nobody trademarked it or what they did. And I thought, okay, Starbucks coffee, Apollo's what? You know, and I do have a few ideas for that, which I won't share with all of you, since there's a few young people in the audience right now. But I do have a really good one for Apollo. Yeah. So, question? Oh, really? Oh, you did? Right. Right. Well, it's actually, yeah, nobody uses Felder carb, do they? Oh, you do? Oh, that's so cute. What is that weapon you have in your hand? Oh, what is that? Really, what does it do? Okay, I should know that. Okay. I just failed the nerd test. The nerd SAT. I failed it, yes.
Could you ever imagine when you were filming the original series decades ago that 2016 places like this?
No, it's so depressing, isn't it? No, you know, I honestly make no apologies. I am a huge sci-fi fan. I happen to love visionary, intelligent sci-fi, but if it's really fun, I like that too. I love fantasy. I love Game of Thrones. I'm so pissed off because Europe has screwed up our whole television system, because Europe has 5, 6, 4, 5 episode seasons where they only have 4 or 5 episodes, and all of a sudden now we've adopted this whole thing. And how does it serve us? How does it serve us? We're always waiting. I have to wait a year now for Game of Thrones. I have to wait a year for Black Sails, or for Homeland, or for any of the other series that I like. And I probably mentioned a bunch of series you don't know, right? Did anybody watch Spartacus at all? Yes. I love Spartacus. I was so hoping they could rewrite history and change the ending. I so wanted to munch those Romans. I really did. Those little badass Romans, those little mother, I won't say those. Okay. Yeah. What? You're pointing to my time. What? Is it past my time?
No, you have 5.
I have 5 minutes?
You have 5 minutes.
So you have 5 minutes to ask me just like the most amazing question you can come up with. Come on, think deep. Oh, that was cool. But I have to be honest with you, because most of you maybe think, you know, fame or any form of fame, you know, kind of as it probably separates people. But, you know, famous people that become famous, and today everybody wants to be famous, and people are famous for all kinds of crazy things, right? But honestly, fame works for you and works against you. People label you, they have false expectations of you, and then it's very hard to be known by everybody, and then all of a sudden only half those people know you, and you feel like, oh, only 5 million people know me now. I feel so alone, so abandoned. No, but it's in a weird way. It's like, you know, you could walk out and have everybody know you, and all of a sudden, 10 years later, people still know you, but the difference between what it used to be. So fame is like a drug. Fame is like a drug. It really is. And you take away half of it, and all of a sudden you know, it can be, it affects you on an emotional level, but fame does magnify everything. It raises your expectation, it raises your fear, and it really makes you, you know, it challenges you. Because how can I ever achieve that level again? You know, and as we know, actors go up and down. They have a successful movie, and then you may not hear from them. Renee Zellweger is coming out, you know, in what is it called? Bridget Jones. And I love Renee Zellweger, but she's been gone for a long time now. And sometimes you wonder what happens to people, you know? But it must be crazy for her coming back after the level of success that she had, and then you're gone, and all of a sudden everything's riding on this movie. And how much she feel? It must be terrifying. You know. By the way, I know you all read about Renee Zellweger's. I know, come on, admit it. You read all those rag magazines. Come on, admit it. How many people read, you know, The Inquirer? Come on, raise your hand. Seriously? Oh. Anyway, everybody talks about everybody getting plastic surgery, right? And I hate to say it. You know, when you live your life a certain way, right? It's almost like if you don't take care of yourself and then you try to get plastic surgery to fix everything, maybe it looks good for 5 minutes, but then your way of life and the way you are and what you do has the body trying to go back to where it was. And you ever seen someone's face when it looks like it's distorted? Because it's been changed, and then the body is trying to reconnect it to where it is based on the way you live your life, what you do, and then it looks like the worst nightmare you can imagine. But insecurity really drives, you know, and I know people that get into the plastic surgery thing, it's never enough. Anyway, they all got upset with Renee Zellweger and said she didn't look like herself. But James Callis, who played Baltar in the new Battlestar Galactica, who I love, an amazing man, amazing actor, he's in the Bridget Jones movies. I hope you know that. He's been in all of them, and since I have such a secret crush on Renee, I kept hiking at this canyon where people told me she used to hike, thinking that we're going to be hiking one day, and I'll be going up the hill, and she's going down the hill, and we stop, and she trips, and I help. I had a whole story just to save her, you know. And then she'd invite me back to her house, and it would be all wonderful. So, but that didn't happen. But anyway, so I was upset because I love Renee Zellweger, and I thought, oh my God, she got all that plastic surgery. She ruined her face. She did all this stuff. Apparently, when they took those pictures, it was right after plastic surgery, so her face was puffy and swollen and all this stuff. Apparently, he told me when he worked with her face to face, he said she looks absolutely beautiful. That's what he said. And I trust him. I mean, he's a really, really, really smart man. So I'm hoping. So I'm going to be first in line to go see the Bridget Jones movie. See, I'm unlike most guys. I love Braveheart and Gladiator and Spartacus, but I also love all the romantic comedies too. Okay? I really do. And one of my favorite ones is Love Actually. Anybody like that? Yeah, come on. That's one of the funniest but most touching movies I know. It's really, really wonderful. Anyway, one last question, and then time's up. So one person have a question you're dying to ask me? Yes?
You said someone has come up to say to you.
I thought you were in prison. I go, I am not the other Richard Hatch guy who won $1 million on Survivor and went to jail for tax evasion. Although if you go online, you will notice that they put him and me next to each other as if we're part of the same person, like the before and after shot, you know? It's hysterical. But you know those little bots, these little bots that go out and collect information, they don't delineate. They just throw it all together, you know? So anyway, and I got that. I had friends, people that know me, before he came out in the Enquirer and all these things where you could see his picture, and we definitely don't look alike. But they came up to me and they were pissed off at me. They was like, Richard, how dare you? You beat up your son, you're gay, and you're, this. I go, what? Who? What did I do? And I had to explain to so many people. And then Richard kept coming back. He'd go away, and then he'd come back, and I'd hear on all the news channels that Richard Hatch, and I'm hearing my name over and over and over again. It was, seriously, I'm making fun of it, but it was painful. But then, years later, I'm going to do this movie, and the producer gets me on the phone, and it's a comedy, and there's this gay motorcycle club in the movie. I'm not part of that club. But he goes, I have somebody I want to introduce you to. I go, who? And he goes, Richard Hatch. And puts me on the line with the other Richard Hatch guy. Can you believe that? And by the way, he was getting the same kind of stuff coming back at him from the other direction, but he turned out to be the nicest guy. And you know what she told me? She told me all that stuff you read about, all that crazy stuff. She said he was the nicest, most down-to-earth, most generous, from the heart person. And I hate to say it, things get blown out of perspective. Judgment is myopic. I hate to say it, this is one of my biggest lessons in life. I have started to do what the Bible says, judgment is mine, saith the Lord, because we see only a narrow vision of things, and then we judge things based on what we see, and we see so little of the real situation, right? So I've learned that judgment doesn't serve anybody, so I've learned to let go of judgment. And I've learned that so many people that I've heard so many bad things about are nothing remotely like the judgments that have been laid on them. I hope that's a lesson that we can all learn. I promise you. Anyway, I want to thank all of you guys for joining me. And I'm hoping that if you have any other questions, I'll be over the table. You don't have to buy anything, okay? You don't have to buy anything. But if you have a question for me, come over. And if you would like one of these cards for my class, it gives you information on where to go. You go to richardhatch.com. I also host cruises. Dirk and I are supposed to be doing a cruise in November. I don't know if you know about that, which should be a lot of fun. I'll get free cigars out of it, I know that. And I do like having a good cigar once in a while. So anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining me. So say we all.